What's going on? Ryan Troy back with another video for you today, and I'm joined with Anthony Toglife once again. You guys told me that y'all enjoyed that last video so much, so I had to do something else. Now, I didn't tell Anthony what we're going to be talking about today, so I'm going to bring this all up on him, but it's on a topic that I know he feels a certain way about, okay? Because I kind of know him. It's kind of my friend right there, so yeah. Now, Anthony, how are you doing today?
Man, I am doing really good. I'm glad to be back. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Now, what I want to talk to you about today is your feelings and thoughts, and also how you deal with clients putting filters on your photos. Let's get into it.
Buddy. Yes, let's get into it, man. So you want to know how I feel about it first, or how?
Yeah.
Where should I start?
So what do you feel about clients putting filters on your photo?
Okay, so this might be controversial, but I adamantly feel that if I deliver images to a client and they put IG filters or any kind of filter on that picture before they post it, I'm a firm believer that I failed. I didn't do my job. I either didn't deliver the product that I've showcased on my portfolio, or I didn't understand what the client was looking for to be able to give them exactly what they want. Like, that's just how I feel 100%. It's like if I know what the client is looking for and I deliver that 100%, they would have no reason to put a filter on their picture. Like, typically, to me, if they're putting a filter on there, it's because that image doesn't look how they wanted the image to look. So if I would have better understood that, I could have just delivered it the way that they would have wanted it. So to me, it's like, I don't look at it as this terrible thing that it's like, oh, if someone puts an Instagram filter on my picture, you know, I'm livid, I'm upset. I use that as a learning opportunity to say, okay, the next time I need to better understand what my client is looking for. Like I said, it could be controversial, but that's my stance on that.
Let me ask you another question on top of that. Okay, so you're taking the approach where you don't feel it's the customer's fault for putting the filter on the photo.
No, because so let me take a step back. It's like, at the end of the day, for us doing this professionally, and that's whether it's part-time or full-time, if you have a client and they're paying you to take images, when you deliver those images to the person, like, that's what they paid for. So even if they want to put a filter on there, even if I felt like I did all the right things, I understood exactly what my client was looking for, but for whatever reason, when they posted that picture, they just wanted to go in a different direction from an editing perspective, they have paid for those photos. Like, who am I to say, not only am I going to charge you to take the pictures, not only am I going to retain ownership and copyright of the pictures, but then I'm also going to tell you that you can't put an IG filter or any other kind of filter on your, it's like, at some point we have to draw a line of where we try to control what our clients are doing with a product that they've paid for. It's like, obviously, you know, the biggest argument is people are like, well, if they put a filter on there and then they tag me, or if someone knows that I did the picture, then that's going to look bad on me, and people are going to think that that's the type of product that I'm delivering. And I just don't agree with that. As a matter of fact, I 100% disagree with that. Like, I don't think that it's really detrimental to us as photographers at all, because people, if they're looking to hire someone, they're not basing it solely off of this picture that someone put on Instagram. Like, people know that you put a filter on something. Like, Instagram has been out for a long time now. Like, you can typically look at a picture and you can tell that there's a filter on it. If I'm looking at a photographer, okay, yep, go ahead.
Don't mean to interrupt, but I want to jump in on this one piece. Now, if we're talking filters, I want to make sure we get this right, because we all know what Instagram filters are, right? But we also know that models and people now alter their photos not just with the Instagram filter. They have, you know, software on their phone where they may soften their skin and, you know, do things like that. Are you putting that in the same boat with the filter? Do you feel like that's on you as well if they're softening their skin?
Yes.
Like, where do you draw the line?
So when I do client stuff, like it in my frequently asked questions, and just when I communicate with clients, I let them know the level of retouching that I do. I'll say, hey, I'll fix things that are not permanent. I'll reduce things that draw a lot of attention, but I'll make it clear that it's like, I'm not the photographer that does like the heavy retouching and the magazine style things. Like, that's not the type of images that I'm going to deliver. So my client knows that going into working with me. So it's like, if they're looking for those type of edits, they already know before we ever even sign a contract, before we ever do any work, like, I'm not going to be the photographer that's going to deliver that. Let's say they're like, okay, that's cool. And they, we do the session, I deliver the photos, but before they post them, they want to do some of that stuff, smooth skin, do whatever they want to do. I still look at that as, okay, I've done everything that I could do. Like, I made it clear that I don't deliver that kind of stuff. If that's what they want to do, to me, I don't care. Like, I can't control. I think this is the mindset that I have. I cannot control. Like, once I deliver those images to the client, I can only do so much to control what they do with those images. Even having a contract, and people tend to think that just because you have a contract and there's something that's in there that says they can't apply a filter, they can't do this, so therefore, since it's in the contract, then they're not going to do it. And if they do, I'm going to tell them they can't. Even having a contract, I still have to balance, is it worth it for me to try to enforce something like that in a contract and potentially not only lose any future business from that client, but also become labeled as the photographer that's being the filter police? I don't see where it's worth it, because at the end of the day, I still have to have faith that people are going to look at my portfolio and they're going to look at my work, not just this particular person and the filters that they applied. I just can't worry about that. I don't understand why it's a big deal. I don't understand why people get so worked up about it. Like, that's the nature of digital. Like, once something is out there on the internet, it's out there. It's like, if you're that concerned about people putting a filter, don't offer any digital products. Do prints only. And even when you do prints, they can still scan them and do whatever they want to do with them. How are you going to stop all of that? Like, what's the point in getting so worked up about it? Like, how do you feel about it? Like, does it bother you?
Yes.
Because, like, to me, I'm just like, I don't see why people get worked up about it.
Okay, so it bothers me, and I understand why a lot of people do get worked up about it. Now, you said you don't feel like it'll stop customers. I do. I feel like it does, because there's a lot of photographers who retouching ability isn't all that good. Now, me as a photographer that started out as a retoucher before I even, picked the camera up and started to shoot, retouching is big to me. That is, it's a reason why I get most of my clients. Most of my clients come to me because they like the way that I retouch. So if I'm like, I can literally mess a photo up, like, like not purposely, of course, but take a photo and like do something wrong, like expose it wrong or whatever, and you will never know that I did, because when it comes to retouching, that's my thing. So it's like if I was to go to Popeyes, it's like if Popeyes had a chain and somebody else, you know what, let's not use Popeyes, because it's probably some of y'all watching that's not in the United States. I think KFC is like global, although I hate their chicken. But anyway,
yeah.
It's like somebody owns a franchise of this company and decides to change the recipe. It's going to make KFC as a whole look bad. And that's how I feel when it comes to me giving you pictures that you do not own. If you own these photos, you can do whatever you want, but you don't own it. So it's like, you are posting a photo that I gave you. You are a person buying into my franchise, my KFC brand. That is you. You can't change anything though. Now, if you want to own something 100%, by all means, do what you want to do, and definitely don't tag me. Either way it go, Don't tag me. You mess up my photo, do not tag me. I don't want no photo credit or anything. And that's usually how I deal with it. Now, I'm not taking nobody to court or nothing, but I will slide in those DMs or that email or that text message and say, hey, I'm going to need you to remove that tag. Don't let nobody know I took that photo or anything. And when I do TFP, it's just the ultimate slap in the face. Like, I could feel a little better if I got paid for this, but if I'm just out trying to do something creative and, you know, two people, a model, a photographer, want to do something creative, and I give you this and because I don't like making skin look unrealistic. I want skin to look as real as possible. So if you coming through and you just blurred your whole skin, and it's like the ultimate slap in the face at that point. And I don't feel like I did anything wrong. Like, I know you said you feel like you didn't do your job as a photographer. Some people look at a photo different ways. You did the right job as a photographer, but at the end of the day, you cannot give a model or whoever the self-esteem that they lack and that they feel they need to do to alter a photo to make themselves look different. That's not you failing as a photographer. That's the model, the subject, whatever, just being a little insecure and not accepting reality.
So as the photographer, you don't think that we have, as professional photographers, you don't think that we have some sort of responsibility to understand that client, to know that they have those self-esteem issues so that we can approach the session differently? Like, for example, like if I know that someone has a scar on their left leg that they're very self-conscious about and they don't want to see.
Right.
Knowing that going into it, okay, cool. I'm going to make sure I pose you in a way, or I'm going to angle myself in a way to where I minimize that as much as I can. So that
I
way
agree with that.
You won't see it, and then I don't have to worry about even having to do post on it to try to bring it down or whatever. So
Right.
for like these people that have, you know, I don't know, I stress for people who get worked up about it. For me, I'm always like, well, what type of communication did you have? Because I always stress to clients that I don't like. So let me backtrack. I don't like it. I don't advocate it. And I'm not like cool when they do it. Like, I would feel the same way. Like if I do a TFP shoot where, you know, we're just being creative and I present something to you and you completely change it. Yeah, to me, that is a slap in the face. Because basically what you're saying is like, you didn't like what I gave you and you felt like you could do it better. So yeah, I would feel some kind of way about that. But for me, it's like, I'm always stressing communication. Like I'm talking to the client or the model or whoever, and I'm like, hey, I would rather you not put filters on pictures, because those pictures, once you put them out there and you tag me, that's representative of me, my brand, my work. So if I deliver something to you and you want it to go in a different direction, just tell me. You know, if you want it to look this way, if you want it to be black and white, if you want it to look more moody, like whatever, I'm typically having those conversations right up front. Like even as I'm doing the session, especially for TFP stuff, it's like, you know, this is the vision that I have. Like this is kind of the look that I'm going for these photos. What do you think about that? And we're working together. So then that way, by the time I deliver the images, there's not really anything that's happening after the fact, because we were on the same page throughout the whole thing.
Right. So can I tell you something? So with what you said right there, everything you just said is the reason why I'm telling you it is not your fault, because every single thing that you just did, you made sure that you did the right things. So this is what's supposed to happen. To go with your scenario, one, after you did all of that, after you took all of those precautions, after you took all of that, then the customer should be happy, because you made sure you did everything you needed to do to make sure that the customer was going to be happy. Or two, the customer needs to say, once you deliver these photos, hey, can you do this? But this is the thing, the customer or the TFP model don't do that. They say, I love these photos. And then after they say that, they go on Instagram or wherever their social media of choice with these messed up, filtered, blurred photos after making us feel they actually like the photo. So it's not your fault whatsoever. You did everything you were supposed to do. It's their fault.
Yeah, I I I guess I'm in the middle. Like, yes, there are times where it's just like I did everything I possibly could have done. I don't you know, I couldn't have communicated any more clear. I couldn't have had any more conversation about it. So yeah, sometimes I'm just like, yeah, what more could I've done? But I think as photographers, we can always strive to get better with every session that we do. And it's like, if I have a case where someone does that, I look at that as an opportunity to try to understand where I could have done something different. And the thing about that is, like, doing something different doesn't mean you did something wrong. It's like, I definitely want to be very clear on that. Like, just because I'm saying like, oh, I could have done something different or I failed, doesn't necessarily mean I did anything wrong. But I still could look at that as a way of doing something different so that I prevent that in the future. Like, I akin it to, you have car insurance, right? So you're
Correct.
like, okay, cool. If someone hits me, like, I have car insurance, whatever, I'll get my car fixed. But you still don't want to be in an accident, because
Right.
your car is never the same after it's in an accident. So even though you know you have insurance, and if something happens, your insurance is going to take care of it, you still do everything you can to try to avoid the accident. Doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. Even if that's, you know, when I'm at a light and the light turns green, I wait 2 seconds just to make sure that nobody's going to run the light. If you didn't do that and you got hit, you didn't do anything wrong. But going forward, could you do something different so that that doesn't happen? Yeah, you can delay yourself 2 seconds, so then that way you can see if a car is going to run the light so you don't get hit. I look
Right.
at it the same way with this. Like, even if I'm looking at something I can do different, I don't necessarily look at that as, well, I did something wrong and I'm having to fix something I did wrong. It's more or less, how can I prevent having to deal with this situation? If I can do something different, even if it's something the client really should be doing on their end, but if I can still do it on my end to avoid the situation, I would just rather do that.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you check in with this Let's Break It Down with more episodes to come. Until the next time, I will see you later. Peace.